class, and the 10% was the market risk premium. What I did was, I took, instead of making it the market risk premium, I made the 10% the market return, and the 4% the risk-free rate. So that changes the answers. And what I'm gonna do is post this one for you to have in addition to the one we did in class. Make sense? Instead of it would take me a while to go through the entire thing. So this will give you another one to practice with. Did you all look at the one? You know the one that I posted last week, went through, and it is posted? Okay. So that's the only thing I changed. Also changed the selling price to 97%. I changed the beta to 1.20, just to give you another problem to work through. If we have time, I'll go through this one. Stay after, I can go through that. We didn't go through this last week, and so I'm going to go through both of these because you will have the longest problem on the exam is going to be like 39 and 40. It's like a full page. So, the longest problem on the test is going to be a combination of 39 and 40. Both these problems. So let me solve those. With the following, this is where you have two different stocks and you have two different weights of those stocks. You're figuring out the expected return. And also, you also are doing that based on two different economic scenarios. This is what you did in chapter 13. So, in this situation, you have probability 60% that there's going to be a bust. If that happens, you're going to get 5% on A, and you're going to get negative 10% on B. There is a 40% chance that things will be a bull market or be a boom. If that happens, you'll make 30% on A, and you'll make 65% on B. So, they're asking you, with that information, and if you put 20% of your money in A and 80% in B, find the expected return of your portfolio. The first step is use your weights. Don't use the probabilities until the second step. Because it is separated like this, listen to me carefully on this part, because I don't even want anybody to screw up. Can't you see afterward? Damn it, I cannot teach in front of children. This is sad. Anyway, I want you to be able to break it apart as I'm showing you in this problem. I want to give it to you this way because I want it back from you this way. Each, understand?
Did she steal your chair?
What?
Did she use that chair?
Yes. No, I want my jacket.
There's one more chair right there too, next to you.
It's a full house, though.
Well,
Popular
this is the biggest room they'll give me. Sorry. I think for the final we get the big one. Don't we get the executive center for?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the finals.
I thought the finals on computer anyway.
No, for the tutorial.
Tutorial.
Yeah, we get the big one. All right. So first of all, just like the index card says, you're not going to use the probabilities first. You're going to use the weights. So you take. You're going to own 20% of stock A, and you're going to have 80% in stock B. So you take the 20%, multiply it by the 5. And then you take the 80%, you multiply it by the negative 10% you're going to make on B. That gives you negative 7. Then you do the same thing for the returns underneath it. You take the 20% times the 30% that you make on A. Add that to the 80% that's going to be in stock B, multiply it by the 65% that you're going to make on that, and that's 58. Add those two things to, no, sorry, we don't add those things together. Then you take those two, and then you multiply them by the probabilities. So what are you calculating here? The 7% is what you're going to make in a bust. The 58%, that's what you're going to make in a boom. Now you're gonna take those expected returns and multiply them by the probabilities that either of those scenarios happen. 60% chance that you're gonna have a bust, you multiply it by the 7% that you calculated above. Then you take the 40% probability that you're gonna have a boom, multiply that by your 58%. You add those two together. Your expected return when you have 20% in A and 80% in B with these economic scenarios is 19.1%. Make sense? So do not do anything with your probabilities. Step one, you just use your weights in the returns. Once you use the weights, then you use the probabilities from what you calculated in step one. I'm gonna say this again because you better effing get it right. I'm asking you to give it to me just like this. Step one, step two. Regurgitate it just like that so you can get full credit, okay? Is that acceptable versus Pew? Is that better? All right, so I may ask you to calculate a standard deviation. Probably not, but I want you to show me that you know what a standard deviation is and what a variance is.
It's on the table, Mr. Credit.
Yeah, yeah. On the final, you're gonna have something just like this. And by the way, I have to give the exam early to one student, and this tells me that they're not changing the exam. I was told to use a prior exam.
Just, release that to them, yeah.
Yeah. So, why am I
Let's go
telling
back.
you this? Again, do the sample finals that we're gonna go through for the final. I told you they were damn really easy.
Benefit for us.
They're liars too.
I would rather them be lazy, because that means you guys are gonna do better, but that tells me that's probably what they're gonna do. Okay, so, good news. I think they're gonna change the numbers. I think they're gonna change the numbers, but I don't think they're gonna change the actual questions. They'll just do what I did for my second test. They'll just change the numbers of the problems. The layout's gonna be exactly the same as what is in the sample finals. Yeah. So there's no reason, if you don't do both of those sample finals, you should be, you should do well. Alright. So, number 40, you have the following information on a stock. Only one stock, not two. So you have the probability, 6% probability that things are bust. You're gonna lose 10% on that stock. There's a 40% chance that things are great, and you make 40%. So how do you figure out your variance for that? Take your probability times your return. For both of those, that's -6, 16. Add those together. Your expected return,
Where'd you get that?
60 minus the -10 times the -10 is -6.
Okay.
40 times the 40% is 16. Add those together, your expected return is 10%. Now, how would you figure out your variance? You would take the 10%, that's -6. 10% minus the -6, square it, multiply it by the 60, and you do the same thing for the 16%. That is 10, it's -10.
It's like me on the exam. Go back and forth.
Still better than mine.
I'm going on day total day, because I'm looking at the whole yesterday. All right, so it's 10, which is your expected return, minus the 10%, we use these. Sorry. Square it, multiply it by the probability, and do the same thing for the second state, which is the 10 minus the together, that's your variance. What do you do for a standard deviation? Square root. I'm gonna ask you what a variance is and what a standard deviation is. See this right here?
Can you move it up?
It's gonna be something like that.
Is that first one there, it goes 10 minus -10?
Yes, because, see, the return for A for the bus is -10,
Okay.
so it's minus 10.
So your expected return minus the return
Yeah,
You're gonna ask the definition?
I'm gonna ask the definition, yeah.
on the variance and standard?
Yep. So this is your expected return minus your return squared times your probability.
So wait, did you mean that the definition, like, you know, the formula basically?
If I ask you what the variance is, and then I say, how would you calculate the standard deviation? Is that simple enough?
So is that 10 minus 10?
Really? What?
Is that negative 10 minus 10?
Yes.
Negative 24?
Because the formula is this right here, it's the probability times the expected return minus the return for that state squared. See that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the vector, isn't that the outcome is A1 minus the expected outcome and square?
Okay, listening to way too much thing music on the highest volume. What did you say?